The Panama Canal may be peacefully connecting our oceans, but the making of it endured centuries of tensions between nations. In the 1800s, French engineer Bonneville supported Panama's revolution against Colombia. As a diplomat of Panama, he made a treaty with America, allowing them to build the Panama Canal. The people of Panama had never approved of Varilla's plan, debating for the rights to the canal while the U.S. claimed the area. From the creation of the canal in the 1900s, the canal saves 8,000 miles for each trip between the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean, being an essential path for global economy and trade. Ferdinand de Lesseps attempted a sea-level canal made by cutting through the mountains of Panama. While digging to sea level, his team faced landslides, floods, inadequate equipment, malaria, and yellow fever, with hundreds of workers dying every single day. His company soon collapsed, and Lesseps' French effort to build a sea-level canal failed. The United States knew that uniting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans would increase their economy and naval power, some advocating for a canal across Nicaragua, using the San Juan River as an access route to Lake Nicaragua, while others favored the purchase of French interests already in Panama. Between the 1850s and 1900s, heated debate broke out on if the canal should be built in Panama or Nicaragua, with the House voting in favor of the Nicaraguan plan in the 1900s. It seemed evident that the Senate would follow suit, but in 1902, diplomat Bonneville tried to sway the Congress towards the Panama route, purchasing 500 Nicaraguan stamps depicting a smoking volcano where the proposed Nicaraguan canal would pass, along with a note to every U.S. Congress member, and on June 19, 1902, the U.S. Senate voted in favor of building the canal through Panama. With Panama being a part of Colombia at this time, U.S. diplomats went to Colombia and asked for permission to build a canal there. Secretary of State John Hay signed the Hay-Harane Treaty with Colombian Foreign Minister Tomás Harane to build the new canal, with the financial terms as $10 million and an annual payment of $250,000 for the duration of a 99-year canal lease. Harane had negotiated the treaty with little government oversight, leading to many congressmen debating if the amount offered was enough. Colombia then requested additional money from the United States and agents. When John Hay refused to alter the terms of the treaty, the Colombian Senate rejected it on August 12, 1903. Panama was an impoverished province of Colombia at this time and was striving towards independence. Bonneville realized the only way the canal would succeed was if Panama became an independent country, suggesting to President Theodore Roosevelt to assist in Panama's revolution, then negotiate a deal with an independent Panama. On November 3, 1903, with Varilla's help, Panamanians revolted against the Colombian government, establishing a new government, declaring themselves the Independent Republic of Panama. During their separation, United States Navy gunboat, the USS Nashville, assisted in delaying the Colombian troops in Cologne, interfering with them so Panama could smoothly become an independent country. The United States was the first to recognize Panama as an independent country. On November 18, 1903, 15 days after independence was secured, the Hay-Bonneville Treaty was signed by U.S. Secretary of State John Hay and Philippe Bonneville. Panama gave the United States the right to build and operate an interocean canal and gave them authority over a 10-mile-wide territory around it. In return, the U.S. paid Panama an upfront sum of $10 million, with annual payments of $250,000 as long as they owned it. Bonneville was the diplomat of Panama in the signing of the treaty, named Minister Plenipotentiary after his assist with their independence. He had received his ambassadorship through financial assistance to Panama, and had not lived there for 13 years or fit any of their citizenship requirements. Therefore, no Panamanian citizens had actually signed the treaty, which would lead to debate about canal ownership later on. However, with the signing, the U.S. was able to go forward with the building of the canal. The U.S. government purchased what was left of the French Canal Company for $40 million, using their supplies and evacuated lands for their own use. The Panama Canal Zone became a United States territory, with U.S. citizens and workers living there to work on the canal. On August 15, 1914, the 50-mile-long canal opened to ship traffic. SS Ankin was the first ship to travel through the waterway, marking the beginning of the canal's success. The impacts were immediate. The Panama Canal became one of the busiest waterways in the maritime world, saving 5 months for each of the 14,000 ships transiting through the canal each year. Millions of tons of fuel and cargo are also saved with the shortcut between the two largest oceans, with world commerce and trade not being able to develop like today without it. The courses of entire wars were also affected. Though the US didn't have as many ships than other countries during World War II in the 1940s, the canal gave the United States Navy strategic flexibility and discouraged Japanese and German fleets from attacking. The canal also shortened the Army supply line, allowing the US military to swiftly move their crew and supplies between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans in World War II and other battles. Though the Panama Canal remained an important and widely used path for worldwide affairs, as the 20th century progressed, tensions between the United States and Panama over control of the canal grew. As a non-Panamanian citizen, Felipe Bonvarilla was the signer of the original treaty, the treaty that had never been approved by Panamanians themselves. They resented the US taking over the canal zone and controlling the Panama Canal. The US flag was raised at Balboa High School in the Canal Zone, leading around 200 Panamanian students to march to the school with the Panama flag they planned to fly. The police allowed them to, however, fights broke out and the flag was torn. News of the destruction of the Panamanian flag spread, and an angry crowd gathered, the situation leading to violence and shots being fired. Protest marches and riots spread throughout the country, leading to an interruption of diplomatic relations between the two countries. However, ties were soon re-established, with both sides recognizing the importance of negotiating a new agreement concerning the canal. In 1993, Alvarez Bunker, a seasoned U.S. diplomat, concluded a series of draft agreements with the government of Panama that formed the foundation of the Torrijos-Carter treaties. Debates arose within the government and public opinion was split on the ratification. A multitude of senators, especially William F. Buckley, supported the treaty, wanting to hand the right of the canal back to Panama with annual payments and U.S. military use.
Is better off economically and is better off spiritually.
Others, like Ronald Reagan, heavily opposed the treaty. He believed the people of Panama were not fit to care for the canal, and the treaty was poorly written.
So ambiguous in its wording as to be virtually meaningless.
Debate between U.S., Colombian, and Panamanian officials occurred about the payments and usage of the canal, but a peaceful agreement was soon finalized. 2 treaties approved by Panamanians were sent to the U.S. Senate. The treaty concerning the permanent neutrality and operation of the Panama Canal stated that the U.S. could use its military to defend the Panama Canal against any threat to its neutrality. The Panama Canal Treaty stated that the Panama Canal Zone would cease to exist on October 1, 1979, and that the canal itself would be turned over to Panamanians on December 31, 1999. In Washington, D.C., these treaties were signed on September 7, 1977, by President Jimmy Carter and Panamanian dictator Omar Torrijos, handing the rights of the Panama Canal back to Panama. Since then, numerous expansion projects and the construction of new parts have been voted for by the Panamanian citizens themselves under their ownership of the canal. In 2009, a $3.2 billion contract for the construction of new locks was signed, allowing for a wider canal and more ships to pass through the waterway. The opening of the canal and its expansion permanently reshaped the global supply chains. To this day, 90% of world trade is transported by sea. The wider canal increased its transferring capabilities and strengthened the business of American countries with those in other continents. Roughly $270 billion worth of cargo crosses the canal each year, serving more than 140 maritime routes to over 80 countries. Though the Panama Canal may be shortening the route between the Atlantic and Pacific, it was a long one to get there, one that endured debate over designs and the placement of the canal, one that needed diplomats to come together and agree on who deserved to own the canal, one that took centuries of tension for a 50-mile-long connection.